Hello, and welcome to the first ever Stop Sexual Misconduct podcast, where I ask the questions that everyone wants to know. In this episode, I will be picking the brains of Stephen Cooper, Managing Director of stopsexualmisconduct.co.uk. With over 34 years' experience in everything relating to sexual offences and sexual harassment, professional standards are at the forefront of what he does. Listen to this deep dive conversation into the taboo topics surrounding sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, bullying, and rape. This podcast provides a profound insight into the culture of workplace sexual harassment and what you, as an employer or an employee, need to do now. So without further ado, let's get started. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for taking the time to speak to us today. Let's start and get straight into it. What do you do and why do you do it?
Well, for the past 35 years, I work in the sex industry, but not as you know it.
Yeah.
What I do, and more importantly, what my team does, is to help people to try and eradicate sexual harassment from the workplace.
Okay. So, all in all, in essence, it would be about equality.
Equality, accepting diversity, and ensuring that we all know our boundaries and other people's boundaries.
Okay. So, what is your definition of equality?
Equality is that we're all the same. We're no different. We go out to do our work so we can put food on the table, and we should go out to work without fear or phobias and come home to a peaceful environment. And, you know, whilst working, we shouldn't suffer any type of discrimination, bullying, and obviously invasion of our personal space, such as sexual harassment.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a main question here, and it's about the new law. Okay, what is the new law? What do employers need to do? And how would you explain this to somebody that has never heard about this new law?
Well, the new law is a reinforcement of the Equality Act 2010. And the actual title of the law is called the Worker Protection Amendment of the Equality Act 2010, Act 2023. And what it did is it shifts the emphasis on employers need to take a preventative duty with reasonable steps to eradicate sexual harassment from the workplace.
Okay. And can you explain what a preventative duty is and what reasonable steps are?
A preventative duty is that there has to be a system in place where, from leaders, managers, HRs, right down to, the single lone employee remotely, understand that they're all singing from the same hymn sheet, that sexual harassment will not be tolerated. So therefore, a preventative duty has to take place. That preventative duty means that employers have to put precautions in place to prevent something occurring.
Okay.
And the listeners must understand that, dealing with sexual harassment must be segregated from any other issue such as discrimination, bullying. It should be a separate entity.
Yeah.
Because sexual harassment in itself, the ramifications of it can be problems with mental health issues afterwards. It can cause a wider problem for those involved, such as it's not just the complainant, the employer, the leader, and the accused. It can have ramifications on a field further afield, such as police officers could be involved, employment tribunals, criminal proceedings, in some cases that I've dealt with over the years, do end up in criminal proceedings. So therefore, the preventative duty is that employers, not employees, have to take steps to prevent it from happening.
Okay. So to me, that seems a straightforward, simple task for employers to protect their staff and for things like that. So what do you think is the most misunderstood area of this topic and law?
Having, over 3 decades of dealing with rapists, child murderers, paedophiles, and array of sexual offenders, they tend to be bullies. And I would say go so far as cowards.
Yeah.
And those people, I have no right to come and invade your space, as you have no right to come and invade my space.
Yeah.
I'm paid to do a job, and I should have the necessary tools to complete that job successfully. And at the end of the day, I go home having been paid a salary to do that job, and I shouldn't have to worry about being sidetracked about someone being sexually harassed as an employer, and I shouldn't have to spend time of my day having to listen to people who've been sexually harassed, listening to those who've been falsely accused of that, and having to deal with these notoriously complex situations. So the way that I can do it is I have to take reasonable steps, as the new law defines. And what are reasonable steps? Reasonable steps are very simple. It's not copy and paste. It's not training from the internet. The best way to deal with it is to make sure that the policies and procedures for all employees, no matter what size, whether you employ one person or whether you employ 100,000 people, is that there should be policies and procedures that everyone involved should be involved with compiling them, that there should be a safe working environment for those who believe that they've suffered sexual harassment, can go to their managers, and their managers will understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And we'll go through the procedures. The policies are there that everyone upon induction and every year should be re-emphasised, that we will not tolerate sexual harassment. But more important of all, I said this at the last company I was CEO of, is I'm not here to be a nanny. But unfortunately, as a leader, that's what I've got to be. That's what the law says I've got to be. I've got to be a nanny. And how I nanny that, monitor that, is by training from the top down. There should be different types of training and awareness courses for leaders to what there should be in relation to the employees, a basic fundamental understanding of what sexual harassment is.
Yeah.
And then also, employees should implement a active bystander intervention training course, whereby a third party, a witness to those events, can step in and say, that's not right.
Yeah. Okay. So you just mentioned that the fundamentals is obviously knowing what sexual harassment and sexual misconduct is. So for anyone out there that doesn't quite understand, if they're witnessing or even experiencing sexual harassment, what would you say to them? What are some examples?
Well, first of all, you can't understand something if you're not taught about it. So the first thing to do is educate those people that, this is acceptable, this is unacceptable behaviour. And the way that you do that is by not copy and paste from the internet, not tick the box from the internet. You have qualified, certified trainers, and this is no disrespect to anyone here, but someone who's been through the process, who understands the process. It's like going to a mechanic and saying, can you service this car, when he's never serviced that model make of car. So you go to the place where they're experienced.
Yeah.
So you've got to educate these people first, okay, that what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, what is the difference between sexual misconduct, sexual harassment, and in some cases sexual assault, and even in the worst cases, which I've seen sadly dozens of, rape.
Yeah.
You know, it's acceptance of the boundaries.
Yeah. And does this play a role with power imbalance and things like that?
There is power imbalance. As an example, junior office worker comes in, been there for say a year or so, wants a promotion, and the leader will sometimes, and it's not as rare as what people think it is, will come in and say, okay, well, you have dinner with me and I'll make sure you'll get promoted, or you have dinner with me and have sex with me, I'll make sure that you'll get a salary increase.
Yeah.
So yes, it is a power imbalance, but you know, it's statistically, I don't believe any statistics that are out there, because these are, you know, we see that 52% of women suffer sexual harassment, you know, and in some cases we've heard statistics recently as high as 78%. Well, government on the employment tribunal, the government statistics, doesn't actually state sexual harassment, it states sexual discrimination. So where do these figures come from?
Yeah.
Okay, it comes from an array of events, such as a new employee comes in where there's been an older employee there who say has been there 5-10 years, who doesn't like the fact that this person may be a supervisor, so they use that, sexual harassment, or bullying or discrimination. It's not just about sexual harassment, because it normally starts off with bullying, then it will go to the upper scale of potentially discrimination.
Yeah.
Then it goes further is the what I call the coward scenario.
Yeah.
Is whereby they use intimidation by way of sexual harassment to get what they want. As I said, you know, earlier on, it is you know, a power imbalance, but it's more of an evasive power imbalance. What right do I have to come into your space? What right do you have to come into my space?
Yeah, of course.
I don't have that right. You haven't given me that right.
Yeah.
However, situations can be misconstrued. As an example, you know, I text you a flirty text, you know, nice dress, and you send me back a smiley face.
Yeah.
You should be trained. Sadly, the long old days of, you know, back in the day, I'm afraid that's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we're not back in the day now.
Yeah.
We're here. And the law says that we must do this. It's not we should do this. The law is quite clear on this. We must take a preventative duty and we must take reasonable steps.
Yeah. So that brings me on to my next question of, obviously, office banter has been something that has been around for a very long time. So what do you think is the main cause in this epidemic of sexual harassment within the workplace? And do you believe that there is a reluctancy in the workplace culture to believe that office banter can sometimes be deemed as sexual harassment?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, if you come to our office, you'll find that we banter all the time. But we know our limitations on relation to, you know, sexual banter. There can be banter on a number of topics that don't relate to sexual harassment. But sexual harassment is I'm invading your personal space.
Yeah.
You know, if I, as an example here, if I see a lady in the office who's wearing a ring, you know, I wouldn't ask her out for a non-work environment drink.
Yeah.
Because I know that she'd be married, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You know, it's all, you know, sexual harassment as a whole has been misconstrued, not just by men, but by women.
Yeah.
Because as I said again earlier, statistically, we've had figures of 52%, 1 in 5, 1 in 3. Both sexes, male and female, suffer sexual harassment.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you have, a lot of the listeners are not going to like what I'm about to say. You know, sexual harassment shouldn't be segregated to women, just women. It should be as a whole encompass. that it can affect men
Yeah.
and women. Just because a woman has been sexually harassed doesn't mean to say that it can't affect a man.
Yeah.
In other words, as an example, my wife comes home and she's been sexually harassed. It will frustrate the hell out of me.
Yeah, of course.
Why is this? What are you going to do? I have 2 daughters, and they've been sexually harassed. What they're going to do? Well, Dad, I'm too scared to say anything. Or my wife, I'm too scared to say anything because I don't want to lose my job.
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole reason why this new law has been brought into place.
Yeah.
Because the onus now is on the employers. 10 years ago or so, we had the introduction of the Health and Safety Act.
Yeah.
That's not my not my forte.
Yeah.
And it took time to come into the veins, so to speak.
Yeah.
You don't put your hand in a fire, and that's what this Worker Protection Act, the new Worker Protection Act, is saying quite clearly is that you don't put your hand in the fire. This is a no-go area.
Yeah.
As I said years ago, if you looked at, shows such as the Carry On films or some others do have them, it was acceptable behaviour.
Yeah.
But now it's not acceptable. We need to now re-educate people.
Yeah. But do you think that the definition of sexual misconduct and sexual harassment has somewhat been lost?
Oh, absolutely. In my time, which is, as I said earlier, is 34 years of experience, I've seen, sexual harassment and sexual misconduct taken out of context.
Yeah.
And actually sexual harassment and sexual misconduct not put in the right context.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners won't really know the difference between sexual misconduct and sexual harassment. So could you elaborate on what both of them mean?
Sexual misconduct is the umbrella term for such as sexual misconduct is, for example, I put posters around the office of naked women. I said something to someone via a third party. I sent sexual innuendos, or I knew that it was wrong, but I still did it.
Yeah.
Sexual harassment is whereby I harass an individual.
Yeah.
Okay. That is a power balance.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
And then in relation to the term sexual misconduct as the umbrella term, that can encompass sexual misconduct, can be rape, sexual assault, as we used to call it, indecent assault, indecent exposure. So there's the whole array of things that cover sexual misconduct.
Yeah. It's clear to me that this is a very complex subject, and I can imagine that there are disillusions that come with it, what people don't understand. So what is the biggest challenge that you face in this field of expertise?
Educating people. What you've got to understand is that the people who commit repeated acts of sexual harassment, if they're allowed and permitted to get away with it, it goes further.
Yeah.
The harassment becomes more of a serious nature, touching, which is sexual assault, and then potentially could become even more serious, rape.
Yeah.
And therefore what we have to do is we have to say what, as I said very early on again, is what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
Yeah.
The issue is that, we are not, back in the day. We are here. Yes, it was acceptable. It was office banter. It was flirting, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no. We can sit here for hours and hours and hours and discuss what's this, what's that. Ultimately, sexual harassment, sexual misconduct. Sexual misconduct is I know that this misconduct is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Sexual harassment is, in other words, very simply put, does the other party concerned consent?
Yeah.
No. If they consented to it, to the flirting, the text messages, and there was no issue of declining the, the flirting or taking out, then that is not sexual harassment.
Yeah.
That is two consenting people, whether straight, whether bisexual, whether gay, it doesn't really come into play there.
Yeah.
It's an issue of consent.
Yeah.
Do I consent to someone sexually harassing me? Simply put, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've told the other person, the complainant, or the accused, that I don't want this to happen. Okay? And very simply put is, I know that they've said no. I'm going to say that I'm the accused here, and let's use you as the complainant. I start flirting with you, and you say to me, very first indication is, I don't want this, I'm not interested, I have a boyfriend, I have a husband, therefore I should retract from that. I'm just sincerely sorry for that, I didn't mean no harm.
Yeah.
End of subject.
Yeah. Okay.
Later on in the day, next day later on, I come along and I say quite crudely, shush your tits. That's sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Because you've told me that you do not want this on me.
Yeah.
If I carry on, it becomes more involved, more complex.
Okay.
Therefore, employers, in relation to their preventative duty, have to tell the employees, and they should know this as well, it's not just the employees, it's the employers, that there is a point when no means no. It's not, I've had enough, we run a campaign on enough is enough.
Yeah.
That campaign was run on the basis of, is that we are not back in the day, we are here.
Yeah.
We are 2023.
Yeah.
And in 2023, the new Act received royal assent to say that this will not be tolerated.
Yeah.
Yeah, we cannot allow this to happen anymore.
Yeah. So why do you think that this massive shift has happened, obviously with the new law, but to do with sexual harassment in the workplace?
We have this all the time where back in 2014 we had the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
We had situations with McDonald's in America.
Yeah.
We had situations with the CBI here in the UK. It's been going on a long, long time.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's very simply put, prior to what we hear on a daily basis, it was covert. Everything was kept under wraps.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a taboo subject. It was embarrassing. Dismissal. We've recently had the fire service. We've had the Red Arrows. Toxic culture. Yeah. People are not prepared to go to work and be intoxicated.
Yeah, of course.
So people are now standing up. This law should have been brought in years ago. Imagine if this was my daughter or my wife suffering, one of my two daughters, suffering this on a daily basis.
Yeah. And to all the listeners out there, you've got a woman in your life and you either came from one or you've got sister, auntie. So it affects a lot of people.
Yeah, but not only that, it also affects, I was one of the very first people to be involved with the very first date rape gate case.
Yeah.
And that started off, harmlessly in the workplace.
Yeah.
That started off as a little bit of flirtation, and then it led to drinks, and then subsequently it led to going back to the house, and one party did not consent.
Yeah.
But there was no law at that time to protect.
Yeah.
Whereas here now in in 2023, we have a new act of law that says you cannot do this. But unfortunately, people don't understand the words. You cannot do this because they don't want. Laws only work if people comply.
Yeah.
So we've seen in the new law, in the new act, we've seen that the average payout in 2022, 2023 was 30,000. That's the average. That's actually quite misleading because the average payout is around about 237,000.
Yeah.
That's on average.
Yeah.
Government doesn't. Government doesn't produce these statistics. They only produce statistics what they want you to tell you.
Yeah.
But what happens is now in the new law, from 37 average thousand a year, it's going to be 48,000, which means it's not going to be 237,000.
Yeah.
It's more likely going to be over 300,000. And what it does do is it companies will not be able to get insurance because they didn't take the preventative measures, the reasonable steps. Okay, why would I want to work for a company? Well, why would I want my daughter, my wife working for a company that clearly, had been involved with a sexual harassment claim when it could have been avoided?
Yeah, and
you don't put yourself in the line of fire.
Yeah,
and that's what companies are doing. Companies are putting their employees in the line of fire when they know, it's like being the mother hen, or the, a bunch of people playing in a playground. There has to be a head school teacher.
Yeah, and as you say, we spend nearly 60% of our lives working.
Yeah.
So it would be top priority, really, to make the workplace a good,
statistically in this country, you say that is priority. That's actually quite, that's quite misleading. What you said there is that 60% of the time, of our lives we spend at work. But there are very few companies. If you take the 2.6 million companies in England and Wales, you look at it statistically, only about 30% of those companies truly have correct policies in place.
Yeah.
And it's only when people get caught out. You had the case recently of the hairdresser.
Yeah.
Who successfully made a claim, and rightly so, of sexual harassment, and it later caused 6 other employees to lose their jobs because the owner could not afford to pay the compensation, so he had to let these people go. Sexual harassment is not like, I'm not going to say it's not like any other, bullying, because it doesn't just affect the two individuals, the complainant and the accused. It affects the employer, it affects the investigators, the police, the employment tribunal. I mean, it's a typical saying here. You created a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah.
Well, in actual fact, no. You could have stayed at a molehill by monitoring it. Putting procedures and policies and training in place.
Yeah.
So, in other words, if an employee is being sexually harassed, that employee should know where they can go, what support they should get.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not saying they should be disbelieved, they should be believed. A thorough investigation, impartial investigation to take place, and those findings should be acted upon.
Yeah.
They shouldn't just be swept under the carpet because, as I've said to before in previous interviews, prevention is better than cure. And again, it all goes down to is, what would you rather do if let's say you had a workforce of 16 people? Would you rather spend £5,000-6,000 on training them, not to fit the budget?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's not about fitting the budget.
Yeah.
Okay, because the budget, with that 250,000, or even the 37,000, which I mentioned earlier, or the 48,000 under the new law, and the bad publicity, wouldn't it be better to spend that little bit amount of money and training these people so they, no matter what age they are, in nurturing them, because that's what it is, mollycoddle them, if you want to, for want of a better phrase, and saying to them, this is acceptable behaviour, this is not acceptable behaviour.
Yeah.
Me as an MD and a former CEO of several companies, I remember years and years ago when I took my first role as an MD, and I was quite clearly told by the chairman of the company, Stephen, lead by example.
Yeah.
You cannot have a good workforce if you don't have a good leader. It's as simple as that. You should be able to give your employees, your staff, your team, the equipment, and I don't just mean computers and laptops and things like that, the training, because I'm passing my experience down to these people. So if I'm the one that's committing sexual harassment on employee, what does that make me look like? I'm not above and beyond the realms of the law. I have the same colour blood running through me as what you do. What gives me the right to come to work and sexually harass you? On the other hand, what gives you the right to come to work to sexually harass?
Of course.
What right do you have to come to work and call me a bully.
Mm.
I've got one case at the moment involving a situation that started off as racism.
Right. Okay.
You know, I can't really say too much about it, but what it was is very simply put is, oh, where are you? I can't see you. The lights are not turned on. I think you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it escalated, to touching, to sexual innuendo, and it got worse and worse and worse. And then subsequently, what happened is the particular, again, I have to be very careful here, the particular director involved with the company, he lost the right to practice for 7 years as a director.
Yeah.
It wasn't the guy in the corner who was making the allegations. It wasn't the person that was receiving the harassment and the bullying. It was down to the director, because when the director, became a director, he has certain procedures that he has to follow under law.
Yeah. So even with all these consequences, there still seems to be a massive reluctancy to do this.
Because people don't like putting their foot in the pond.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid to say people need to start, you cannot cross a pond without getting wet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what employers are doing is that they think, that they can walk across the pond like walking on thin ice. Well, I'm afraid to say that thin ice is now broken.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to fall, and you will fall hard, and it will be your fault. You're the one, as a leader, that should have these policies and procedures and the correct training in place. It's as simple as that. I want my team, my staff, to come to work to do their job. That's what they get paid for.
Of course.
I do not want my team to come to work to be bullied, discriminated against, or sexually harassed.
Yeah.
Because the way I see it is that they are my second family. I spend more time with those people than what I do with anyone else. Yeah. And without, this is a draconian thing to say, and I'm sure a lot of listeners won't like this, is I may be the big cog, but I certainly need the small cogs to turn the wheel. Yeah. And without the small cogs, the big cogs don't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone, no matter who you are, from CEO, chairman, managing director, supervisor, employee, should know that you should be able to come to work if you have a problem that involves a workplace situation such as bullying, discrimination, sexual harassment. Yeah, there are procedures.
Yeah.
It's very sad that you have the Equality Commission who have to be involved with these. Solicitors are rubbing their hands over this.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are really, really I have read recently so many HR magazines reports on the internet, uplift the costs if you don't do this, if you don't do that. Okay, they're rubbing their hands. They want, for example, you look at the McDonald's scenario, okay?
Yes.
As you're fully aware of that one. And you look at one or two sexual harassment claims, a week.
Yeah.
That's one or two too many.
Too many.
Okay. Yeah. It boils down to prevention is rather than cure. Yeah. Well, I'm afraid to say it's not now the employee's responsibility. It's the employer's responsibility.
Yeah.
They have to do this.
Yeah.
And if they don't, one of the greatest things I find here, my warped sense of humour is that, years ago, I told my son, don't put your hand in that electricity socket. Yeah. But did I tell him? No, I didn't. I let him do it.
Right.
He'd never do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You can only guide people if they want to be guided.
Exactly.
You can lead them to the pond. You can lead the horse to the pond, but you can't force it to drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when the horse walks away thirsty, whose fault is that?
Yeah.
Not my fault.
Yeah.
I can only say, you need to do this, you need to do it. No one needs to do this. Yeah? No one needs to do this. No one needs to go along and say, I can take preventative steps and reasonable steps. Yeah. You don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But all it takes is for one person to walk into a firm of solicitors or to contact the Equality Commission and say, I have this evidence. This is what I've got.
Yeah.
It may be photographic. The age of the internet and the age of phones and other gadgets that you get out there, and this, and the Equalities Commission jump on you, investigate you, pin you down for a year, we'll be monitoring you, can even shut you down, even take you to court and fine you, and then the solicitors going, oh, this is absolutely fantastic, this is, I'm going to uplift my costs because they could have done this all could have been avoided.
Yeah. So it's clear to me that this really needs to be filtered down. But obviously...
No, it doesn't need to be filtered down. It needs to be filtered up. It needs to start from the top.
Yeah, right. So which leads me... Not everyone listening to this podcast will be an employer. Okay, so it will mostly be employees. So what I'm asking you is, for everyone listening that isn't an employer, what is a step that anyone can take to prevent sexual harassment from happening in the workplace?
It all boils down to teamwork, okay? It's a team effort, okay? So, there's no I in the word team, but there is in the word if. Yeah. So the workforce, whether it's 10 people, 20 people, or 100,000 people, it should come together and sing from the same hymn sheet.
Yeah.
That's where the training comes in. Okay. That's where the preventative duty, comes into place. For decades, certainly since I've been doing this, and I've been doing it 3 decades, we've had guidelines.
Yeah.
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 We need to stop guidelines.
Yeah.
We need is set in stone. In other words, we need tram lines.
Yeah. Okay.
This is right. This is wrong. Back to school basics.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, which leads me on to my next question. Getting down to the nitty-gritty, the cure, if you like to put it that way. I know you mentioned earlier on about general bullying and harassment policies. Where would an employer now find guidance on this?
Well, of course I'm going to say this, we've invested time, money, and over 90 years of experience. I mean, the people that work here at Stop Sexual Misconduct, have been prosecutors, have been defenders. Their legal knowledge is paramount. They're excellent trainers, but they've only worked in this field.
Yeah.
They've only worked in, as I said at the very beginning of this podcast,
specialists.
Specialists in sexual harassment, sexual offences cases. Yeah. So, an HR person, and this is no disrespect, again, I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this podcast will disagree with me, but HR they're a jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
This is a difficult subject, okay? It's notoriously complex. The reason why it's notoriously complex is very simply, is if, as the current law says, if it's allowed to escalate, it could come to a worst case scenario, which is, an accused could go to prison. The minimum prison sentence now for rape is 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay, that's live from the sex offenders register.
Yeah.
It doesn't just affect the accused, it affects their family, it could affect their children.
Yeah.
They could be going to school. Oh, your dad's a paedophile. Your dad's a sex offender.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could have all been prevented.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's back to the prevention scenario. Yeah. Zero tolerance in my book. Okay. Zero tolerance to you may mean one thing.
Okay.
But zero tolerance in my line of work is you should not allow this to happen. You take it on the side of is, as an example here, someone makes an allegation, goes to a solicitor, months pass, the stress of the complainant, because we don't know whether it's not for me to say whether or not they're a victim, that's the court's decision. Yeah. That's why we have courts in place to decide based on the facts. And it's subsequently found that person has suffered sexual harassment. Okay. Well, an employment tribunal would ask the question, under the new act, what did you do to prevent this? Well, what I did to prevent this is I used, I had a specialist company who knows what they're doing, look at my policies. They told me that my policies were flawed. because all the policies that you see now on the internet are 2-3 years old anyway.
Yeah.
They should be at least reviewed every year.
Yeah.
Because obviously times change and times have changed.
Course,
that's why we've got this new law. I put all of my staff on training courses by an accredited company, by a specialist company, and I put posters around my office saying that you come into work here, we will not tolerate this.
Yeah.
If you do this, and it's proved that you have done this, you will reap what you sow. There's an old story, there's an old saying with that. And that you will be dismissed.
Yeah.
And people that get dismissed from sexual harassment, we could go a lot further in this podcast, as we could turn around and say is that, someone who starts, we need to do pre-screening. Why did they leave their previous job if that's the case? Yeah. Were they sexually harassing someone there? Are they going to leave this job to go on to sexual harassment? The accused has to understand that if the case is found against them and if they are truly guilty, the effects of what they have on their career, they may not be able to work again.
Yeah, and I can imagine it has extreme consequences towards your employer's liability insurance.
Well, not only, we talk about the employer's liability insurance as well, but we have to talk about the, I prefer to use the word complainant because I'm not a judge, I'm not a jury.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only base my decisions on my observations and decades of investigating. I'm going to say hundreds, and it would be right, not thousands, hundreds of these cases.
Yeah.
And I would say erring on the side of caution, doing an unbiased investigation, if I believe that someone has been a victim of sexual harassment. I won't put my name to any investigation report if I'm not absolutely sure, because I'm not prepared to stand up in court and say, based on this and that, and they be flippant areas. I want to be absolutely 100% sure.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to professional standards. So I would say to people, you need to take this preventive duty. You need to stop this. Okay, all of these tribunals, all they're interested in about solicitors is the more cases they get in, the more money they earn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
So what you do is literally, you stop the circle. You stop it happening in the first place. Prevention is better than cure.
Yeah. So to squeeze this down into one question. I'm an employer. I have 5,000 staff. Who needs to be trained? When do they need to do this by? And what do they need to know?
Answer your question, very simple. No one in your company is immune from training.
Yeah.
They all have to be trained.
Yeah.
Leaders need to be trained, from the leaders, directors, supervisors, HR, in enhanced. The enhanced it covers the basic fundamentals of what is the difference between sexual harassment, sexual assault, sexual misconduct. It covers what's right and wrong, what's acceptable. It covers areas of law. It covers the reporting, which is very, very important. How an employee can come to me and report this. How should I investigate it? Very important.
Yeah.
And from the findings, what disciplinary action needs to be taken.
Right.
Yeah. And don't just pat that person on the back because they've committed this. Don't happen it again. That person may need extra training. Okay. So that's the employer. All employees.
Yeah.
Okay, need the basic training.
Yeah.
You cannot ask someone, as an example, to put an IKEA wardrobe together without knowing the instructions.
Yeah. And would this be the basic half day?
That's the basic half day. And then as a whole unit, coming as one, they then need to participate in the active bystanding intervention. Which what that means is that I've been trained in basic, or as a leader I've been trained in the enhanced, whether basic or enhanced. I've seen something, I need to intervene with this because this is going to escalate. Yeah. And I can prevent it from happening. Even if I intervene with it, what do I need to do with that? Do I need to report it? Yeah. in my opinion, that if you witness something of this nature, a sexual nature, yes, you should report it.
Yeah.
Because it may later be found that you could have prevented something further happening. Why didn't you report it?
Yeah.
You know, it's all about a clear line of communication.
Yeah.
You know, the right policies and procedures, the right training, you know, and then everyone. Imagine, you know, I know one particular person who used to go to work every day and used to get sexually harassed.
Yeah.
You know, and I always ask myself this question, you know, why did she repeatedly go to work? Well, one, she needed to earn the money because she had things that she needed to buy, bills she needed to pay. But then it struck me, you know, which is very sad, is she actually went to one of her supervisors, and one of her supervisors said, "Don't be so silly."
Yeah.
You know, she couldn't go to someone
Yeah.
of her own sex
Yeah.
and tell her, you know, and subsequently she left that company, you know. It's like you're the lost cause. Well, no, you're not. You're not above and beyond me.
Yeah.
I'm not. What right? Again, getting back to the very first part of this podcast is what right do I have to interfere in your personal space?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, whether touching, whether by communication, whether by posting flirty posters, I have no right to do that, as you have no. It's simply how you could term sexual harassment. To sum all of this up, is very simple. I have no right to come into your house and burgle your house.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And that is why the Worker Protection Act has been put into place. Is simply put, people have said, we've had enough. We now need to do something about it. And how this will be enforced is very simple. Yeah, employers will face a 25% uplift in costs.
Yeah.
They won't be able to employ people because people won't want to work there, because there will be a register.
Yeah.
Okay. There will be statutory guidance. We have our own technical guidance in place, which goes far above and beyond, you know, the Equalities Commission policy. And when that employer will walk into court, he or she can clearly say, these people were trained in this. Upon induction, within 3 months of them starting at the company, and every year we do a refresher course, that we took every preventative duty we could.
Yeah.
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 We cannot, employers, myself as an employer, I don't have eyes in the back of my head.
Yeah.
But I have a clear reporting policy that my door is always open.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
You know, and if I say to my employees every day, is there anything, do you need this? Is everything okay?
Yeah.
So when I go into court, I can say, you know, I've put it in my diary that I asked X so-and-so, was she okay? Yes. So and apart from the training, the preventative duties, I've done everything I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, what the main core of all of this is very simply, I do not go to staff to receive, I do not go to work to receive reports from my team,
Yeah.
of sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I go to work.
Yeah.
So I can put food on my table. You go to work for exactly the same reason.
Yeah.
You don't go to work to get harassed. I don't go to work to get harassed.
Yeah.
I don't go to work to harass people.
Yeah.
I may be irritated at people. I can certainly say within this office, people irritate me.
Yeah.
But what I do is, if they are irritating me, I'll sit them down, and it's not about what are you doing wrong. It's about what are we doing wrong.
Yeah.
It's a team effort.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So just quickly going back to ticking the box. So all the courses you just mentioned are face-to-face, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know ticking the box is more convenient, it's cheaper. So why is face-to-face and these courses, why do they go above and beyond?
I will give you an example, okay? One particular company who I did some work with recently, I asked them to complete, they had 30 staff.
Yeah.
All right. And I asked 15 of them to do the tick in the box.
Okay.
Okay. And then I asked 15 to do the training.
Okay.
Okay, 5 of which did the enhanced training, 5 of which did the basic, and 5 of which did the bystander intervention.
Okay.
Okay, and what I did was I went to their board of directors, and the tick in the box questions were, I think there were about 15, 20 of them, lasted about no more than 15, 20 minutes to do.
Right. Okay.
As high as 76% got them wrong. They didn't know what sexual harassment was.
Wow. Yeah.
I then asked the question, which is a very simple question, is over a Christmas period, what is the percentage of the increase in January for sexual harassment?
Yeah.
And people were putting figures as low as 12%. We had one put 70%.
Right.
The figure is actually 37%.
Wow.
In January,
there is
a 37% increase of sexual harassments from obviously the festive season.
Yeah.
And then in that question, that tick in the box question, one of the most important questions was asked, and no one answered it.
Right.
Out of those 15 people that was surveyed, no one could answer it. And the question was, who do you report to?
Wow. Yeah.
And the second most important question is what am I supposed to do and what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
They didn't know the answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Now with the face-to-face, okay, is I can walk into court as a leader and say, I did the enhanced course. Yes, it's 7 hours, but wouldn't you spend 7 hours, spend 7 hours than 7 days preparing for court, attending court, getting your witnesses into court, the bad publicity, going back into court, being found guilty of disobeying this law, and then other staff members go, well, hang on a minute, I don't really want to work here. Because they've skipped this, they've put my freedom. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, my final question to you, Stephen, is from the 34 years of experience in this industry, what is the most prevalent piece of advice that you have learned that our audience can take with them that has shaped the way you work today?
Lead by example.
Okay. Can you expand?
Don't do to others as what you want done to yourself.
Yeah.
This, not just sexual harassment, bullying, diversity, but we're talking about what we do as a company. We are here to eradicate sexual harassment from the workplace.
Yeah.
I know, that within the next 34 years, I'd be dead by then. I'm not going to be able to eradicate in its entirety sexual harassment from the workplace.
Yeah.
Because there will be chances out there.
Yeah.
But those chances will be weeded out.
Yeah.
There's no place for you in the work environment. Prevention is better than cure, and how you prevent it is by educating people. Yeah. You can only educate someone if the teacher knows what they are talking about.
Of course.
And that they've experienced it themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you should know better. Well, I didn't know better. Well, why didn't you know better? Because I don't know anything about the subject. This is where you need to learn.
Yeah.
And you need to predict, which is very difficult to do, that we in life as human beings, we don't drive our cars in reverse. We go forward. Yeah. We need to, people, everyone, whether employee, whoever it is, we are not back in the day. We are in 2023.
Yeah.
This law has come into place because whoever it was, whether it was me, whether it was the architects of the new law, whether it's females, males, have come together in a roundabout way and said, we're not tolerating this no more. Enough is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, finally, I would end this podcast by simply saying you've been warned.
Yeah.
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 If you want to go into court and you want to suffer the embarrassment of being named and shamed, like the Royal Air Force, like National Grid, like McDonald's, like Fuller's, the list goes on. I could sit here for at least a week, tell you all the cases that we've done.
Yeah.
Then that's your fault.
Yeah.
You didn't listen.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is my warped sense of humour here is, I do this with my son. You know, I told you so. Well, how do you know that? Because it's happened to me. I've
Yeah.
been there. It's experience.
Yeah.
Enough of all of this. Let's be happy, go to work.
Yeah.
Good leaders.
Yeah.
Good professional standards. Yeah. And again, ending this podcast, I would say the leaders are the big cogs. But it takes the small cogs to turn the big cogs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think this is a profound piece of legislation. I just want to thank you for talking to us today. And to the audience, please like and subscribe to this video. We really want to do more of these videos and educate you and everyone else on this notoriously difficult subject. So please leave a comment, like and share, and we will speak to you soon.